WNS here as the Baltimore Ravens almost knock off the Kansas City Chiefs. Bill Cole joins us now from Cole Roofing. He's in my coffee mug. Of course, it's Royal Farms coffee. When are you going to get your own coffee blend to put in the Cole Roofing mug and serve it at Royal Farms? How about that?
There you go. I'll do anything. You know that.
Well, Lamar Jackson's the quarterback this week, and I know I'll be talking a lot about that. But everybody said, where was Nestor over the weekend, right? Like, I stopped posting, I stopped Twittering, I stopped Instagramming and Facebooking, and I went sort of into a Tony Robbins lockdown in Florida. Do you want to hear more about that, Bill?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, you were the one that said to me, let's talk some Tony Robbins, right? So what do you know about Tony Robbins?
I have not experienced it, but I'm a big,
personal development,
self-assessment, like get rid of the silly things that hold us back. And I'm into all of that. And the couple of people I know, in addition to you, who have experienced Robbins, I've never heard someone say, not nice things about it.
Well, the biggest thing, and I figured this out with my wife, is it's like a real commitment, right? Like, whatever he commits you to do, it isn't you're going to come in for an hour this morning and I'm going to fix you by this afternoon, right? Like, he doesn't promise that. So my first ever Tony Robbins firewalk experience was in 1994. I thought I had my books in here, but I put them somewhere else. Yeah, I moved them. I was going to hold them up for you on the camera, but I found my notes from my first firewalk in 1994, and it's the reason you're on the phone with me now. It's the reason people are watching me now. It's the reason my wife is going to come in and open the doors in the room so it doesn't sound so crazy in here. So anyway, there's my little off-the-cuff morning coffee, brought to you by Cole Roofing. So in 1994, I did a firewalk. I bought the 30-day tapes. I was out real late one night drinking with Mike Messina. And Mark Messina will verify this. We used to go to Hooters after Oriole games in the summer of 92, 93, 94. Summer 94 was abridged, as you remember, because of the strike, right? So in maybe May, I was out one night. I came home late. I was living on Kane Street. And I think my mortgage payment was $478 a month. Do you remember those days?
Not really, but
I had one of those because I bought a house when I was 18. So that was in 86. So this is 1994. And late one night after watching the infomercial for the 58th time, I decided to dial the 1-800 number and get the 30-day tapes. And they looked like this, but not quite, because I did put all this stuff on the floor. This is my personal power. These are actually the CDs. This is the second set I bought. I bought these maybe like in 99. But in 94, I bought the original 30-day Power Talk stuff that you remember making fun of, where he wore the funny suits and the suspenders like Larry King, right?
Sure.
The whole deal. The second set had Barry Melrose, Wayne Gretzky, the guy who made Sleepless in Seattle. Come on, everybody's watched the late-night infomercials in the 90s, right? So in 94, sure. I did the firewalk. I did it at the Washington Grand Hyatt. I had no idea what I was doing. I showed up. I signed a form that said, you're going to walk on fire tonight. And I'm like, what? That's like some sort of metaphor, right? Like, Bill, if I tell you this weekend we're going to go walk on hot coals, you're going to say, oh, we're going to the beach, right? Like, we're going to have a barbecue. And when you get there, you literally light the wood and you go out and walk over it. And I did that, and I don't know. It just it spurred a different kind of energy after that for my passion for radio and WNST, and the Ravens came to town the next year. So lots of things happened in my life at that time. So in 1999, I took my son on a firewalk here in Baltimore. We walked the coals on the parking lot where literally Camden Yards is now, like where the Hilton is. That was an empty parking lot next to the convention center. We firewalked in front of the Sports Legends Museum then, okay? So next to the light rails. This is 1999. My son did it. In 2003, I met my wife, and I said to her, if you really want to get to know me, you might want to do a firewalk with Tony Robbins. So in 2005, about a year into our marriage, we went down to Florida, and she did the firewalk. I did not participate. I just sort of facilitated, okay? So she did the firewalk, and it really kind of helped her. It was a 3-day weekend of self-assessment and what you want to do with your life and setting goals and all of the stuff that any self-help workshop or book that you would seek would find. So in 2005, that happened. We go about our lives. Life is good. I haven't done anything with Tony Robbins. I haven't even watched a 10-minute video in 10 years, 12 years, right? So in 2014, my wife is diagnosed with leukemia. And I don't know that I've told the whole story, but that night, when you get diagnosed with leukemia, it's not pretty, Bill. They come in, the two doctors come in. They're very, very serious. You look like you're seeing the gates of heaven or hell, whichever direction you might be entering. They walk out the door, then it's you and your wife, and you want to cry, you want to hug, you want to call your mother, you want to tell people, but you don't want to tell anybody. And then you have to kind of figure out what's going on. And the minute the door's shut, I remember my wife sitting in the gurney, and she'd only been in the hospital one night. She had a PICC line in her arm. She's freaked out, and she said to me, I guess that effing firewalk's going to come in handy, huh? So literally, it was the first thing she said to me. I remember her saying that to me as she got up to go pee in the hospital. I call it the hospital room. We called it the hotel for 2.5 years. So she spent 155 nights in the hospital fighting for her life. And I don't think we mentioned Tony Robbins. I didn't break out any books. I didn't do anything like that. We didn't have any kumbaya religious experience or Buddhist movement. There were no priests. There were no clerics. There were no rabbis. There was our family, her family, our friends. You probably remember where you were the day that you heard that my wife had cancer, right? Probably, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So we didn't talk about Tony Robbins at all, and she survived once, she survived twice. Obviously, surviving is much more difficult than we've made it out to be, right? Like, people ask me all the time about my wife, how she's doing physically. Is the cancer back? That's their first question to my wife is always, is your cancer back yet? Not how you feeling, So it's a very weird thing. So 7 months ago, you remember famously, you're doing radio with me all year. Did I even mention to you that I saw Tony Robbins in June or no? Did you see it on Facebook? I put a picture up of the two of us. Did you see it?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
So the Caps played game 3 at home, I believe, or maybe it was the final game against Tampa. Maybe it was game 7, Tampa. I'm not sure what game it was, but it was that week. It was during the week of the Stanley Cup Finals. I went to one of the home games. And a friend of mine, and this speaks to technology, Bill. You'll appreciate the technology piece of this, okay? Do you know every time you locate on your phone and I text you, the world, the global locating system knows where you are and where I am and puts us near each other so that if we happen to want to go into the same bar, right? If I'm in Essex and I'm at Pizza John's and you're in Essex and you're at Al's Seafood, we'll know it because phones will know it. Locators will know it. So I saw a girl who I have not seen physically in over 2 years, a person that I have not Facebooked with in a long period of time. I mean, since my wife's cancer, 4 years, 5 years ago, I think the last thing she would send me on Facebook would have been, hope your wife is doing better, or whatever that thing that everybody sent me. My wife got sick, right? So sure. I text with her. She was at the Caps game. She texted me because she saw on Facebook I was at the Caps game. And she said, hey, I want to give you a hug. I said, great. So before the game, I went downstairs in my suit. I looked good that night, Bill. And I gave her a hug. So talked to her for a couple minutes. She went down with her husband. She had good seats. I had roof seats. I went back upstairs with Ed Frankovic, watched the game. And after the game, I started to go down to the locker room, and I started looking on my Facebook, as we all sort of do. And I saw her on my Facebook with a picture with Tony Robbins. And I said, Tony Robbins is at the game tonight. What the hell he's doing here, right? I didn't know he liked hockey. I know he likes baseball. I know he likes basketball. I know he owns a piece of the Clippers, some stuff, right? So I'm like, Tony Robbins is here, and now I'm in the bowels of the arena in D.C. And I'm like, well, if he's anywhere, he's here, and he's 6'9", and I know him a little bit. I firewalk with him a couple times. I've hugged him a couple times. I've had him on my show 20 years ago, back when he did things and sold late-night tapes and whatnot, before, like, he was sitting with Oprah and Bill Clinton and, like that, right?
Right.
So
right.
I turn the corner, and there he is. And I'm thinking, all right, I'm not starstruck, right? I mean, not like I was when I saw Paul Rogers of Bad Company or Free, right? I mean, I was starstruck. I was like, so I'm thinking to myself, if I run into Robbins, what would I say to him? You know what I mean? Because I have incredible gratitude to Tony Robbins for everything that I've become, because quite frankly, if I didn't walk on fire in 1994, I wouldn't have ever have had WNST or have ever have found the right wife or have ever been able to help my wife survive cancer, right? So all of these founding principles that I learned in my life started in 1994, and they really were brought on by Tony Robbins. So
just to, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No,
but
please
to
do.
clarify,
I want to bring you into it at this point, so go ahead.
I would push back on that last comment that, like, none of this stuff would have happened.
Oh, wow, okay.
That's very finite and
okay.
very,
Well, there was a pathway to being able to handle stress.
Well, you took his message,
tools.
It
he would call them
resonated
tools,
with
yes.
you, right? It resonated, and you ran on a path.
Perfect.
My guess is if you're the type of person who is willing to go seek out that type of information, maybe it may not have been Robbins, it may have been some other system or plan or
I was seeking a teacher.
suggestions,
Does that sound fair? I was a student seeking a teacher on a Buddhist level. Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay. So I see Robbins.
By the way, doesn't demean any of your gratitude towards him, right? So that doesn't take
absolutely.
that away. It's just
my mother and father did all sorts of crazy effed up stuff to me, right? It doesn't
right.
take away my gratitude or lay blame, right? So that's all part of this as well. So
right.
I see Robbins, and now I'm like, what am I going to say to him? You know, if I saw Bono, if I saw Mick Jagger, I might say, hey, I love that song you wrote about your father called Kite. If I saw Mick Jagger, I'd say, I saw you in 1980 on my first concerts. I don't know. They were also infomercials, by the way. The Rolling Stones had infomercials, how they sold their music in the 70s. Very few people remember that, but it was on during the Mike Douglas show. So anyway, I see Robbins, and I'm like, what am I going to say to him? You know what I mean? Like, what would I say to him? And I went up to him, and I said, you know what? I just want to tell you a story. I saw him coming, and I said, Tony Robbins, you changed my life. And he turned, as he does, put his hand on my shoulder because he has nowhere else to put it because he's 6'9", kind of like Billick, because he can't put it on my waist. And he says, really, man, tell me how. And I told him in 45 seconds. So the speech kind of went like this. Let me rehearse this, Bill, for you. I said, Tony Robbins, you changed my life. He's like, wow, really? Tell me how. And no one in there was really bothering with him. You know what I mean? Like, no one was interested in him in the room I was in. He's 6'9". Maybe somebody knew, saw him in Shallow Hal or whatever. Maybe somebody bought his tapes. But nobody was interested in, like, talking to him in the space we were in, you know?
Right.
He was seeking. He wasn't seeked. Or sought after, to use the proper word, because I'm an English major. Miss Mundy and Don Moeller would be upset with me if they heard me say that. So I said, you changed my life. He said, tell me how. I said, all right. 1994, I bought your tapes. I did a firewalk. It changed my life. I have great gratitude for what you've done for me. But that's not the story. The story is I got married in 2003, told my wife that she wants to understand a little bit more about how I'm wired. She might want to do a firewalk with you. You invited us to Orlando. Thanks again. We went to Orlando, did the firewalk. Great. Life's been great. 2014. She was diagnosed with leukemia. The doctors left the room, and the first thing she said to me was, it's a good thing you took me on that fire walk, huh? And I used the F-bomb because he uses the F-bomb a lot, and I would use the F-bomb, but I don't use the F-bomb because I have an FCC license. But my wife uses the F-bomb. My wife cusses like a sailor, and she said, I guess that effing fire walk is going to come in handy. So he laughed, but then he said, how's your wife? Is she okay? I said, she's had 2 bone marrow transplants. She's a miracle. Guy in Germany saved her life. She's doing well. He said, I want you to come to Date with Destiny as my guest. And he put his hand on my shoulder. Can you do that? And, like, if I said to you, I want you to come to Date with Destiny, Bill, what would you say? What is that, right?
Yeah, right.
I knew what it was. It's a 7-day immersive, all-in, day and night, all day, all night, very little rest, psychological breakdown of you to show you who you are and also give you a path on what you're looking for. So there you go. So that's what I've been doing the last 7 days in and around the Chiefs game. So it took me 14 minutes of a Tony Robbins infomercial, but it was wonderful. It was incredible. It was fun. It was enlightening. It was Freudian and all of the above. And everyone I know who seeks such things should at least go to a firewalk and get started, figure some things out.
Yeah, I mean, I think you become the messenger for the concept that, like,
you can get better.
Geez, how blessed, how lucky are we that you could just exit, go do that, and better yourself. And people are like, oh, I can never do that. I can never do that. And then, but then reality
you don't better yourself till you come back and start doing it. Really,
right? But the reality of it is you can't not do it. Like, maybe you can't do that, but finding time in your day, week, month, year to, like, improve yourself or at least learn more about yourself, like that pays off in dividends that you can't ever really grasp. And
well, you know what? That at base level, what you just said to me, because I know you've done some of this stuff too, which makes our conversations fun. And we'll get to Lamar Jackson and Joe Flacco in a minute and the psychology of that, right? Like, Joe Flacco just had to give the "I'm no longer the quarterback" 12-minute press conference and couldn't play the Cam Newton role of "F you guys, I'm not talking today," right? You know what I mean? Right. So how it manifests itself happens the day that your wife has leukemia and all you want to do is cry. All she wants to do is cry, but you got to get up and fight, man. You know what I mean? Like, the day you can't pay your bills, the day you lose your job, the day something happens to your child, the day that whatever happens. And, it's funny you'd say this, Bill, because we're going to get into the psychological side of this thing. By the way, Bill Cole is here. Tell me what you do at Cole Roofing in case they just joined us in the middle of a Tony Robbins rant that you brought on. You asked for it. Tell everybody that you brought that on, Bill.
Right, I did. I asked. We can talk about the quarterback controversy, but as long as I can,
and we will. There is no controversy anymore. Lamar's
as long as you don't force me to talk about the Orioles, I would much rather talk about Tony Robbins. So, Cole Roofing, almost 100-year-old commercial roofer, everything from leaks to new buildings to roof replacements, shopping centers, schools, hospitals, the whole thing. So we're doing the Tony Robbins-esque analysis of your roof and then trying to make it a better roof.
Trying to build the foundation, trying to get all the facts, get all the references, and then break down the things that are wrong. All right, or the things you want to adjust. Bill Cole is here, Cole Roofing. You can find him. We're going to talk about roofs. We're going to talk about Lamar. I just want to finish up on the Robbins thing because this is interesting. Because all the work we did, full book, lots of stuff, lots of tears, lots of high fives, lots of dancing, lots of really cool, interesting people I met. I met a retired NFL player whom I know. I ran into a friend. How about that? I ran into a guy, and I'm not going to out anybody that it was there, but I ran into a guy who was a 10-year NFL offensive lineman, decorated guy who, probably has, $80 million in the bank or whatever, and he's there trying to make himself better. So, and he's also called football games, a broadcaster. I see him often. This guy played 11 years in the league, all with the same team. So there you have it, and a deep thinker as well, a very intelligent guy. So, and I'm out going to the bathroom, and there he is, and I'm like, dude, my dude. It was one of those moments, and I'm like, hey, you're here. Hey, what's going on? So it was one of those things that in West Palm Beach you still run into people, and there were 3 or 4 listeners who were there who saw me in various places and said, hey, Nestor, how are you, man? Can't believe you're here. Right. Amazing, so it was a neat thing. It really was.
I appreciate you're protecting the innocent, right? And feeling like it's not your place to tell us his name or that. But what is that about the stigma of
self-help?
Self-help.
No, it's more privacy than anything else. Yeah.
Remains a little bit uncomfortable. Like, maybe not totally uncomfortable. Like, you could have said it, and he probably doesn't care, and you don't probably care. But it just isn't the way to do it. So that's fine. But still, this idea that a man would go and try to find himself after he had a career and he did all these things, and he's just, he's looking for more satisfaction or more happiness.
Dude, that's exactly where I am, right? 25 years of doing this. Yeah. Every single thing I wrote down in my 1994 book, every single thing that was a dream of mine in 1994, I have accomplished. Like, literally. It's like Mr. Holland's opus, literally, right? So I am there seeking, like, what happens after you've had a radio station for 20 years and you have a Super Bowl champion as a partner and you have an awesome wife who beats cancer twice and you have an evolved child and you've lost your mother. What do you do when you're 50? What's the next thing? So let's reassess. Let's re-strategize. So that's why I was there. My wife was there for whatever reason she was there. We haven't really talked about it, to be honest with you. She and I haven't talked much. We were in separate groups. We were on separate teams. How about this? My wife wound up with a partner. I had 3 different partners in 6 days because a couple of my guys left to go into the platinum and move around, and so I had wonderful partners. My wife had one partner for 7 days, and it was a guy who lives on a fjord in Norway on the Arctic Circle the top thing on my bucket list is to see the Northern Lights. I took this guy to Rocco's Tacos to drink my buddy Julio's margaritas, Tommy's margaritas, down the street. We toasted Julio the last night. And he said to me, you come to my house. We will eat the lamb from the hills. We will see the Northern Lights. I said, how many times you see the Northern Lights? I've seen the Northern Lights hundreds and hundreds of times, more times than I could possibly tell you. The guy lives in the Arctic Circle. This is my wife's partner for 7 days. Do you think she got a different perspective on the world?
Yeah, that's amazing.
So it was an amazing week. But I guess the grand total of this, before we talk about Lamar and Joe, and this is how it can transition, quite frankly, because I think it's fascinating. I was up early this morning kind of rambling through things, doing dishes and thinking about things as I'm wont to do. And I thought, the biggest issue that Tony Robbins, the big question over the weekend is how do you react when you don't get what you want? Whatever that is, whatever you want, you need, you desire. When you're a baby, you cry, right? Females cry more than males on average, but that's not, I cry like Dick Vermeil, right? So I don't have a problem with that. But for anyone to not get what they want, what they desire, what they need, what happens then? Anger, frustration, revenge, down the line. Whatever happens when you don't get what you want or what you feel is fair, that emotion is probably destructive. Whatever that is, whatever that emotion is, you can go through the whole list of them. But that, to me, so you ask what I did at Tony Robbins, that would be my complete summation, is to say, what happens to you when you don't get what you want? What happens to your life? What phase do you go into? And that would be Tony Robbins' $1 million question to you. So there.
Right.
Is that good homework for you? So right now, Joe Flacco wants to be the starter, right? And Joe Flacco says, look, I'm qualified, right? I mean, come on, man. I've been doing this for a lot longer than that guy. I throw the ball better than that guy. My arm's better than that guy. I read defenses better than that guy. But he's got to have a press conference and go out in front of Luke and me and everybody else in the world on Wednesday and do 12 minutes that you can hear in the buyatoyota.com audio vault right now about why he's not the quarterback anymore, right? So literally. And that's a very, very difficult thing to do in life, right? If you want to see what it looks like, even when you have $125 million, because there's humiliation, right? There's shame involved, right? And it doesn't cost him any money. He's going to get to keep his money. But all of that psychologically is what happens to a football player when they're no longer the alpha. Perfect, right?
Yeah. So something you said a few minutes ago about I've achieved all these goals. Right.
My first set of goals. I just need to have new goals, right? Northern Lights is something I haven't done, right?
But so all the stuff that you're saying about Joe, I think most of that is short term, shame, embarrassment, whatever. That's all short term.
Yeah, because in July he's going to be quarterbacking the Jaguars or the Dolphins or the Cardinals, somebody, right?
Or not. Right?
Or he'll just have 5 kids on his lap and hanging out up in Audubon somewhere, right? Going to Phillies games or something, right?
But the idea is that when he takes stock and he looks at his list from when he was 17 years old or whatever it was, I mean, he's Super Bowl MVP. I mean, the guy probably checked off all the boxes. Maybe Hall of Famer was on his box. Maybe he doesn't get to do that one. It is what it is. But
the day they called his name draft night, they said, Joe, what is your goal? It wasn't to not be Jamarcus Russell, to not be Joey Harrington, to not be Tim Couch. It was to be Joe Montana, right? Literally, right? And that's why when we sat with him up there at the Bateman's up in Perry Hall and said, Joe, do you think you're one of the top 5 quarterbacks? He said, I don't think I'm one of the top. I think I'm the best. And if I didn't think that way, I couldn't get up and go to work every day. And people were like, oh, my God, did you hear what Flacco said? He said he was the best. That's crazy. That's like Nestor saying he's the best at doing sports radio there's ever been, which there have been days I've believed that. That's like me saying to you, Bill, is there somebody that can do a roof better than you? After 100 years? I mean, your family's been doing this 100 years. Somebody says he can do a roof better than you. What do you say to that? You're flying middle fingers everywhere when somebody says they're better at doing Baltimore sports media than me. They better come see me. You know what I mean? Whether it's Stan Charles or Scott Garceau or Bruce Cunningham, those guys can't carry my water. That's how I feel about it. That's how I've always felt about it, and that pisses people off to say that, but I have no problem saying out loud that I've had a better career than Jerry Coleman. I don't have any problem saying that. But, but when you go to Joe Flacco and you say to him, hey, Joe, the Super Bowl was nice and all, right? But, I mean, you're no Tom Brady. I mean, you're no Brett Favre. You're not even really a Roethlisberger, really. I mean, you're good, but you see that statue in front of you're never going to have one of those, Joe. You know what I mean? Like, so for every Ed Reed, Ed's going to go to the Hall of Fame this year, but Ed, you're good, but you weren't Ray, right? Right? You weren't Ray, right? So there's that for everybody, right? No matter who the best is, you then get measured. I mean, Brady walks in the shadow of Montana, who walks in the shadow of Unitas, who, right? I mean, and all of that. Michael Jordan and LeBron, we're going to start hearing that argument, right? That's going to be the next 20 years of an argument. So,
yeah, but like that concept, like, okay, I'm not Jeff Bezos. That's
sure.
okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
I'm okay with that. And the other piece that I would throw into this is this. For a long time, people talk about the goal setting and the goal setting, and you checked your goals, and now it's time to set some new ones. And then I just recently have been listening and reading to some stuff about, the goals are really good, and I think everyone agrees that if you spend time thinking about them, or for some you actually work out a path to get there and all that, that's really good. But there might be something to the idea that happiness is not focused on achieving this goal. It's really about finding your happiness through the path on the way to the goal, right? Because if you set the goal and then you keep your head down the whole time and you wake up and you achieve this goal, let's hope for your sake that it was the right goal.
Hey,
right?
The Northern Lights are the ultimate,
goal.
right? Because you can go looking for the Northern Lights, spend 10 days, spend 10 grand, fly off to Norway, and the light doesn't happen. That wouldn't make it a bad trip, though, right? I mean, like, it wouldn't make the fish taste any less cool or the views be any less beautiful. It's literally that. That's true. I mean, a lot of times you go looking, you go to the Super Bowl to win the Super Bowl, and what would have happened if the fourth down pass would have been a touchdown and the Ravens would have lost? That would have changed Joe Flacco's story. It would have changed John Harbaugh's story, right? Many would probably say Harbaugh still wouldn't be the coach right now, and Flacco wouldn't be the quarterback if that event didn't happen that night the way it did. If the lights went out and everything changed that night in New Orleans, it would have changed the story for a lot of people.
Right. But your perspective on taking that trip and missing the Northern Lights, some people would walk away from that as an epic failure.
No, or they would say, if there's a chance that I won't see them, I'm not going to go.
Right.
That's really what they would do. They would say, if there's a chance, if I'm not certain, because we all need certainty, right? Certainty and variety, that's the paradox of life, right? But if I'm going to spend all that money, I better damn well, and all that time and take time off from work, I better see some green lights in the sky. That better happen for me, and it better be just as magical as I think it's going to be, because if I get there and I do it, and it's not as awesome. I mean, my wife and I, was one of our fears. We did our 10th anniversary in Tahiti. We'd seen all the pictures. We're like, the water can't be that blue. There's no way. I mean, it just can't be that beautiful. There's just no way Bora Bora is going to look the way it does on the Travel Channel. And you know what? When we got there, it was even better.
Right.
So strangely enough, but it was windy, and it wasn't as warm, and it wasn't as sunny, and so the way you picture the postcard, I took my wife to the most beautiful place that I've ever been in my life, right? So I met her, and we had these long talks because we did Tony Robbins stuff 15 years ago, and she said, "Where's the most beautiful place in the world you've ever been?" I said, "It's a place called Lake Mackenzie." And she said, "Where's that?" I said, "It's on a place called Fraser Island on the east coast of Australia. It's a sand island. You can only get there by ferry. There are no cars on the. They have no roads. They have sand roads. And it's the coolest place I've ever been. And there's a lake there in the middle of the island with pristine water. You're not allowed to get in the water with suntan lotion on." Because they don't want it in the water. Sure. And I swear to God, we did this trip before she had cancer. It was like 2 weeks before she got cancer. And we spent our day. We had the whole day at Lake Mackenzie. We got the mini mokes that take you down there. We rode in the sand. We got stuck in the sand. And there's a video of it up on my Facebook. And we got to Lake Mackenzie, and it was cloudy. and it wasn't beautiful like I remembered it. And we spent the day there, and we spent 2.5 hours there. And Jen sat there after hearing me talk about it for a decade.
Right.
And she's like, yeah, it's really nice, honey. It's really, really nice, honey. And I'm like, yeah, it's not like it was the first time I was here. Maybe it was the Swedish girl swimming in the water. Maybe it was the beer I drank that day. Maybe it was the crowd I was in. Maybe it was the sun. But it's not what I thought it was going to be. Isn't that weird?
No, it's not weird. That's life. And like if
that really happened, though.
Yeah, the Herculean effort that it took you to get there. Like if you spent the flight bickering with the stewardess because she won't let you put your luggage in the overhead compartment because there's no room, and it takes forever to get a drink, and you can't get comfortable in your seat,
and you have a flatulent guy next to you after that.
Yeah,
right?
And the movie that you downloaded doesn't work, and and then you get there and you have all these, like that is the substance. Like the goal was to get there and it be the way you remembered, so you could share that with your wife.
Yeah, Disney World. When you get to Disney World with your family, like it can't rain, right? I mean, it's not allowed to rain. Bill Cole is here.
If it rains and you run through the streets of Disney with your kids in the rain, like that, it could questionably be more magical. Right? When they're 20-something and they look at you and you guys remember the story of when it rained and you were in Disney. So
it's funny you would say that because my wife has this incredible memory, and she brought it up the other night. I said, what's your favorite memory of all of our relationship? Now, this is a woman that I have taken around the world, as you're well aware of, right? We have all these incredible memories, and she said the happiest memory she could remember at the Tony Robbins event was the night we got stuck at the Hard Rock across the harbor in a rainstorm, and we had to take our shoes off, and we ran home in the rain through the harbor, soaking ass wet, laughing at ourselves. That really happened. And she said that the other night. So funny you would bring that up of all these things. Bill Cole is here. He's Cole Roofing. We're going to get to Lamar Jackson and Joe Flacco and the Tampa Bay Bucks and Christmas and Festivus and Kwanzaa and Hanukkah and anything anybody else is celebrating right now, including being able to actually sleep before 3 a.m. Cole Roofing, tell everybody what you do, Bill, and then we're going to talk some Lamar because I know you do want to talk some football. You got to talk about that pass that Mahomes threw the other day, too.
So Cole Roofing, almost 100-year-old commercial roofer. Been fixing Baltimore's roofs since 1919. We do roof replacements, service, leaks, tenant improvements, repairs, shopping centers, hospitals,
therapy for Nestor,
commercial properties. Right.
Mm-hmm.
All around good people trying to help people with their roof-related problems.
Lamar's going to start on Sunday. What do you think? Go play coach, go play owner, do whatever it is you do. I get it, and obviously Joe gets it to some degree. I don't know that we're going to win the Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I liked more the conversation you and I had last time where this is like the chaos that makes it really hard for people to prepare for us, and that when the situation calls for it, Joe's really the captain because he's got the knowledge and experience and can make the throws. Just like, I can't remember who the commentator was during the Chiefs game, but, they talked about it's hard for us to come back when we're down. It's okay if you're playing from ahead and you grind the clock and, we play really good defense. Like that whole system works. But we get down 2-3 touchdowns to Tampa in the first half. What are they going to do? I mean, I don't know what the purpose of like.
Well, this offense shortens the game. This shortens the game. But as I said to Luke the other day, if Flacco had run out there at the 2-minute warning with the game on the line, they would have really had a chance to win the game, a much better chance to win the game than they did with Lamar out there fumbling the ball. And I don't see that as any sort of vision for the future. I'm just being honest as I assess where they are. That. Exactly. Maybe Joe's not as healthy as they want him to be. Maybe they're playing coy. But I have a really hard time believing that if they have to go down to Houston and play on January the 5th, that they really believe that Lamar gives them a better chance to win that football game. I'm questioning all of this, and I think they're questioning it. And as Luke says, embrace the weirdness of all of this. I think this is weird for all of them, including the coaches and the players. And it's an awkward thing all the way around, and I don't know how it's going to turn out. I mean, I really am interested in this. It's an interesting narrative from being a Ravens fan all of these years because we're about to see something we haven't seen before.
Yeah, it's weird. I like the weird part of it. That's all good. It's just going to be a really short story because I don't think when you have Joe there and you put the receiving core together with the tight ends and all those guys, like you have these tools. I mean, the line, there is no doubt about, like, my experience with offensive linemen in the limited portion of my life where I played football, right, like through high school. Offensive linemen love to run the ball, right? Like, let's beat them up, let's grind them down, let's be going forward, not going backwards. So I think the guys love that. I think they're embracing it. It's fun. It's definitely causes tons of confusion for the other team to try and game plan. But to your point, 2 minutes, you're down, you need one score. There is nobody in the building who doesn't think Joe gives them a better chance to do that. And I don't know why. So if you know that, I don't know why you would go out of your way to say, this guy's going to start over that guy, as opposed to just saying, hey, like, we got a good thing going here. Like, we got this sort of offense and this system we can do, and then we got Joe, and he can do stuff, and the
hybrid notion of this, I mean, I know we talked about this last week, but the hybrid notion of what they talked about for 6 months, which was Joe 75% of the time and Lamar 25%, sort of kind of, whatever that ratio would have been of what the Saints did to us 6 weeks ago, right? Which is really, really off balance. If they can go into a playoff game with that sort of mojo, boy, that would, if that's where they are a month from now, that's a pretty good place to be. And if they want to tap Joe on the shoulder next week and say, go beat the Chargers because we're going to have to air it out there, that's a pretty good football team. That Los Angeles Carson team that I'm going out for Christmas to spend the week under a palm tree reviewing my Tony Robbins studies. They're going to need Joe Flacco. I mean, that's where it comes back to me. You keep saying it's a short story. I keep saying at some point, you're not going to let your $25 million quarterback sit on the bench while this kid ends your season somehow, fumbling the ball or throwing the ball into somebody else. I just don't believe they're going to let it go down that way.
And I think that there was some weirdness at the end of that game that maybe we just dismiss, and it is what it is, but like, him going down and RG3 coming in and like that all just is kind of weird, like, I guess, any other guy would have went out in Lamar's spot, but that was all weird. And I don't know. It's just, I don't know how, now that you've gotten to this point where you can actually see that you've got a good shot of making the playoffs. Good might be a little strong. Fair shot, is that better? But
no, I expect them to make the playoffs. I expect them to win 2 out of the next 3. I expect somebody else to lose. I don't expect them to win in Carson. I mean, but if they don't beat the Buccaneers and the Browns, they don't deserve to be in the playoffs. I mean, if they don't beat the Buccaneers and Browns at home, they don't deserve a game in January. And if they can go and win in Carson, then they probably deserve to get a home game, which they might actually get if the Steelers can't get out of their own way the next month, the way they haven't for the last month.
And I'm good with all that. I just don't know how you get to this point with as many turns that the season takes, and you've got Joe, maybe he's not fully ready, or, maybe they want to give him another week. But I don't know, man. I would feel better about it if Joe was the one doing it.
Well, there you go. Bill Cole here from Cole Roofing. You can find him out at ColeRoofing.com and, of course, on LinkedIn and anywhere else that corporate roof spaces are, and also doing some tremendous psychological evaluation for my Tony Robbins week, and I appreciate you being the one to have me download it on, because not everybody wants to hear it. It's funny. I have mentioned Tony Robbins' name. It's, as you mentioned, like there's a stigma about him, about self-help, about mental health, about improvement, about whatever it would be, locking yourself in a room and trying to get better, or what benefits there are. But, I'm out in front. I've always worn my Tony Robbins on my sleeve for 25 years, so I don't mind talking about it. And he did me a very nice turn by inviting us. So at heart, he can't be all that bad a guy, right?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm glad we did it.
We will do it again next week, and hopefully the Ravens are victorious, and I'm heading off to California, just like Tony Siragusa with the Bombers in Oakland with Coach Billick. See you soon, Bill. Be well.
All right, appreciate you. Thanks.
Bill Cole, my sponsor, my friend, my therapist. He's at Cole Roofing. Nasty at WNSD.net finds me. We're in the buy a Toyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. I am Nestor. We are WNSD.net, AM 1570 and WNSD Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.